Case, what the hell are you doing? We got a show in like 2 minutes.
What am I doing, Chinch? Just got our first sponsor, brother. I can't believe it. RevTown Jeans just sent me these unbelievable jeans, bro. Most comfortable jeans I've ever put on. They almost feel like sweatpants. I was doing squats just to make sure I was correct in my thinking.
Yeah, if you guys are just listening to this, Sean was basically just bouncing around his room, but he's wearing jeans, which, by the way, my last name's Cencimino. Sean, I'll take the part of how they're made because they're Italian milled denim. What that means is they're infused with a trademark athletic stretch yarn, so you get premium jeans with an amazing fit and a comfort of your favorite sweatpants, like Sean was just doing. If you go to our YouTube page, you'll see it. RevTown cuts out the middleman. They offer them directly to the consumer for a ridiculous price, Sean.
Dude, I tell you what, Chinch, you got to get a pair of these, bro. The most comfortable jeans you will ever put on, no doubt about it. Go to RevTownUSA.com and order yourself some jeans, Chinch, because you're going to absolutely love them.
Let's do it.
Let's get this party started, Chinch. We got a show to do, brother.
Yeah.
Roll the animation.
Hall of Fame broadcaster Marty Brenneman here, and you're stepping inside the mayor's office. Here's your host, Sean Casey.
Boom! Coming in hot, Chinch. Coming in hot,
Yes,
baby.
jeez.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Mayor's office coming in hot. Hey, we got to get this going before we bring in our guests. We got to let him know that we appreciate he's here and how awesome he is. Let's bring him. Let's bring this to the forefront. This guy played 13 seasons in the show. 13 seasons at a pretty high level. Drafted by the Yankees, played with the Marlins and the Red Sox. 279 career hitter, doubles machine, bro. 394. He can pull the ball down the line with the best of them. Just rocket. Missiles. 223 bombs, almost 1,000 ribbies. 4-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champion, World Series MVP, Gold Glove Award winner, Silver Slugger, Red Sox Hall of Fame. Let's bring in our good friend Chinch, my man, Mikey Lowell. What's up, Mikey?
Yes.
What's
Mikey.
up, guys?
And we just got so much more handsome. Look how handsome we are.
Oh man, I like the intro. I'm a little jealous, dude. We got man caves with trophies in the back. We got bases with all this stuff, and I'm on MLB Network with a TV and a dress shirt. Here, here's what I got. I got dress shirts for later on today, dude. That's what we got. Great to see you guys.
Oh,
Yeah,
man, good to see you too, Mikey. So, for everybody out there, man, what's going on in the life of Mikey Lowell right now? We know you're at MLB Network, so you're doing that, but take us to what are you doing right now, brother?
Well, I'm following games. Obviously, we got playoffs going on. So baseball-wise, this is a fun time of year. I enjoy a lot of free time. Things are kind of opening up in Florida. It's been open for a while. So my wife rags on me and says I do adult sports camp. So Mondays basketball, Wednesdays beach volleyball. I try to fish once a week, filter in some tennis. Go and watch my kid. My kid's a junior now, so they're in fall ball. So watching him play, it's been fun, man. I feel like I'm a little spoiled. I get the chance to have the freedom to watch my kids kind of do what I like to do at 47, still being a kid. I'm a kid at heart, but then still, kind of be connected to the game. So it's been cool. I enjoy Miami. I get a lot of free time. We get to fish. We get to enjoy the outside. As everyone's getting cold now, our weather's actually getting where it's the nicest part of the year. So we're a little spoiled down there.
Dude, I want to go back to the adult sports you're playing, because when you said beach volleyball, I thought, no chance. No chances Mikey Lowell playing beach volleyball. I mean, talk to me. You have some ups, bro? How's that?
No, I don't have ups.
You got like 17 screws in your hip. So how's that? How's everything going?
that I tell people, I have titanium in my hips. So, my kids are like, oh, there's a storm. I said, don't worry about it. I'm made out of steel. I'm like Superman. I got titanium in my hips. So like that, whatever. So, the group we play with, it's a couple guys my age. I'm kind of one of the shorter ones sometimes. So it's guys that are tall. And then every once in a while, we get these young guns coming in, and, beach is 2-man. So what I love about it is you're on sand. So for my hip, it's great. What's bad about it is you got to cover a lot of the court. And then we get these 25-year-olds that have these verts. So if I ever block them, I'm like, yeah, dude, that 8-inch vert gotcha. You know, they get all jealous. These kids are jumping out of the gym. But it's just something, you know, Case, you move around, you're using a lot of different things. And for me, you know, I'm getting to the age where I just can't pound the pavement the same way, you know. So I played a little beach volleyball growing up. So it's something different, fun, and whatever, man. You know, whatever works. Spend the time. I'm actually working out, and I'm not looking at a clock or on a treadmill at all. You know, you're being competitive, so it's been cool.
I love it, dude. I love when you talk about, you know, growing up playing some beach volleyball. Obviously, growing up in Miami. I want to go back because before we got talking, we were talking about your son Anthony and some of the things that he's doing. But what I loved was you were talking about being a dad and having that conversation and you know, teaching the kids work ethic and some of the stuff. I want to go back to young Mike Lowell. I want to go back to I know your dad was a huge influence in your life, still is, but also growing up to be a man. Can you take us back just to, you know, some of the lessons he taught you that you bring to your kids now?
Yeah, a lot of them, Case. You know, and I think that's the situation for a lot of guys. Maybe not specifically their dad. It might have been a coach or, you know, an uncle or something. But yeah, my dad was huge with me, and I think what he did best for me was he was a baseball player, pretty accomplished. You know, he pitched for the Puerto Rican national team. And, you know, he's in the Puerto Rican Hall of Fame. So he carried a little bit of clout, let's say, compared to other volunteer dads who were teaching their kids Little League. But he never pushed baseball on me, which now I appreciate so much more as a dad, because I see a lot of dads pushing the game on their kid. And sometimes the kid might like it, but he doesn't love it. So, you know, for me, growing up, the seasons ended as well. I think that's a big difference between how our kids grow up now and how we did. Like, my season was 12 games. If it rained on Saturday, I started crying because you didn't make it up. You know, like my son right now, they're going to play 15, 18 fall league games before their season starts in the spring. You know, so it's a lot of baseball. So, you know, for me, you know, seasons ended. I played basketball, and then some of my friends were playing soccer. So I said, you know what, I want to play soccer. Why? Because my friends are there. You know, I sucked at soccer, you know, but I enjoyed it. So you played that. And then, you know, I got to the point where I think you got exposed to so many different sports that not only do you love them, I think it makes you a better athlete. But for my dad specifically, I think when it came out to baseball and I realized that I was really good, I enjoyed it more than the other sports, and I was better at it than the other sports. I think without knowing, you know, I think he built a mental state for me much younger than maybe most kids are exposed to. You know, I still remember when I was like 8 years old and I got a big hit in a game late. You know, it's when, you know, the bigger kid that throws hard and you rip the double off him. And he says, hey, you know, congrats. That was a great hit. But, you know, you have to want to be in that situation all the time. He goes, you cannot fear anything in that situation, because what's the worst that can happen? You make it out. He goes, the thing about baseball is you can't dictate in the lineup when you're coming up. So you got to be ready for the situation, whether you like it or not. So, you know, I think that really helped me for the mindset of what my responsibility was as a big leaguer, which I was driving in runs. And sometimes, you know, I tell people the fifth spot is tough because a couple guys get on, two guys get out. You're up a lot with runners in scoring position and 2 outs. So you don't have the luxury of, hey, let me just hit a sac fly or put it in play. You kind of have to come through. So I use that mindset a lot, you know, and my dad was big on, you know, you got to be prepared. You know, his big thing was, and not only in baseball, like he was big, you are a student athlete when you're in college. And he told me, I struggle to understand why some people are so competitive on the playing field and not in the classroom. And that kind of stuck with me, you know, and you try to tell your kids that, because I don't know if my son's going to be a big leaguer. Odds are is that he's not. I hope he is, but odds are is that he's not. So you got to be able to, you know, have passion and attack something else, you know, with that same mentality. And for me, it was, you know, I think my dad instilled, you know, respect the opponent, be prepared. And as long as you're prepared and you're giving all your full effort, let the chips fall where they may. He would say that a lot. Let the chips fall where they may, because if your talent's there and you're prepared, the chips are going to fall in your favor a lot. So yeah, you know, I was very fortunate. I think when I basically took the next step in my baseball career, I'd say it was high school, where, you know, your parents are detached. I mean, hope most kids' parents are detached by the time they're in high school. And I had a great high school coach too. I mean, we had like indoor sessions. You know, it was crazy stuff. Like he'd be like, "All right, Sean, you're the runner on first. Runners on first and third, 1 out. I call a squeeze play. What do you do?" And he needs you to think on the fly, you know? And you know, a lot of guys got stuck. And then he'd go over, why? Well, you got to steal. Well, why do you got to steal? Well, the guy's coming from third. If the bunt is done successfully, they're either going to go for the play at home or at first. You might be standing on third, you know? If he pops it up, everyone's screwed anyways. You know, it was that kind of mindset that he kind of instilled. So I think that knowing of the game really helped me out in my development, where for me, physically, I developed really late. So I think kind of trying to have an edge mentally really helped me.
Hey, Mikey, two quick things. First of all, when I was researching about you, you had a 4.0 in high school when you were talking.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of way. That's kind of. I mean, I was a good student. Don't get me wrong, but that was, you know, they kind of weigh all that stuff. Do I think I had straight A's? I don't think so. But yeah, I was a good student. Actually, I'm one of 4 kids, and my mom was, you know, kind of like the disciplinarian. And I always tell people, you know, my mom expected good things, and you know, I felt like I got good grades, and I came in 4th in SAT scores amongst my siblings. So I was like, dude, I didn't get the bronze medal in my own house. And she'd be like, "Mom, I got a 97 on the test." She goes, "Well, that's good. Do you think there's anything you could have done to get a high?" I was like, "Come on, dude. What the hell?" So, you know, it was at a young age, man. You know, if you can do good, we expect good, and it's got to come from you guys. So it worked out.
Yeah, and my second point is you just mentioned like you were kind of like underdeveloped. I think I remember you telling me once like you weren't like a huge prospect, and I know Sean wasn't either, right? But you guys wound up. Did you guys play against each other in a cape, and that's how you guys kind of got on the map?
Yeah, well, Sean played for what? Brewster?
Brewster, yeah, Brewster.
All right. Well, this is what I remember about Sean. His team was like 8 fast wide receivers. Like when we have Scott Solomon or someone went to Notre Dame.
Scott Solomon used to return kicks from Notre Dame, bro.
Yeah.
What?
So he had these 8 burners, and then you get this monster hitting cleanup, and I'm like, he drove in like 50 runs in 40 games, and I'm like, how did they construct this team? But yes, Case remembers me as a second base. I played second base in high school and college, you know, and I was the type of guy who, I mean, I hit 12 home runs in 3 years. So power was not my thing. I always hit for a high average. I hit for doubles. And, you know, when I signed, I think I weighed about $177. And I still remember Jimmy Johnson, who was my A-ball manager. He was a farm director or minor league coordinator for the Houston Astros. And he was the first person when I was in Greensboro who told me, "You're going to develop into that body. Your frame can handle 10, 15 pounds. And when you do, you're going to play in the big leagues." And I was like, wow, you know, this is the first guy that told me that I'm going to play in the big leagues. So it was kind of a motivator. And then the beauty of the minor leagues is, you know, when you're done, you do have 5 months. You have almost 6 months to really, you know, work on the off season. So if you don't come in stronger and in shape, I think it's on you, you know, and that was the first year where I gained, you know, none of this 25 pounds. I gained like 14 pounds. But man, I just felt like I was strong, and I kind of developed into my frame at 21. When you know these kids, you know, some kids do it at 16, some kids do it at 19. Everyone's a little different. And my home runs that year went from 8 to 32, and I became, you know, a top prospect. Wow. So, I think in the end it was kind of the best thing that could happen, because I think I had to compete with guys that were physically a lot more developed at a younger age. And if you can compete with that, when you kind of caught up physically to them, I felt like I took off. And especially with a wood bat, I mean, Case can talk to this.
Yeah.
A lot of big, strong guys in college, you know, just got weeded out because they couldn't barrel the ball up with wood, you know. And for me, I felt like I had to barrel the ball up with aluminum just to compete with the kids that were stronger than me. So when I got to the minor leagues, man, I felt like I had an advantage, because I had bat to ball skills pretty much my whole life. I just didn't have anything behind it. So when I kind of grew into my frame, things kind of started flying in the right direction.
Mikey, how did you go from, I don't think I knew that. So you played second base in college?
Yeah, all 3 years.
But so here's my question. Usually the guys that don't have a great arm, they go to second base. You had a cannon. Like, so I'm saying, like, how did you end up just transitioning to third base and becoming a Gold Glove third baseman. Because like I said, you're playing pro ball or college ball at second. They go, hey, go ahead and play third, and all of a sudden you become an elite third baseman. Like, how'd that transition happen for you?
It was, and this is what I tell so many parents, where I think of every position growing up. You pitched, I caught a lot. I played the middle infield. I played outfield a handful of times, even first base. The only position that I never played a single inning ever in my whole life was third base, ever.
Wow.
So when I'm a junior in college, the Yankee scout Rudy Santine said, hey, I love your arm. I think power can come. If I draft you, would you be willing to catch? And I said, yeah, I'd be willing to catch. Because I figured, I hit for a high average in college. I always hit a lot of doubles. And I said, man, if I can handle a staff, I think I could go through the system pretty quick. So I was like, yes. I just didn't want to go back to FIU for my fourth year. I was like, it's going to be a repeat. Thankfully, I had a real good friend. I had 3 good years, and I just didn't want to go back and kind of do the same thing and then sign as a non-drafted free agent, let's say. So he drafts me in the 20th round. I was supremely disappointed because the Cleveland Indian scout told me I wouldn't pass the 9th round. So when guys like Kay sign in the 1st round and
Second round.
Oh, second round. Sorry. Who was it? Danny Peoples? Do we got to blame Danny Peoples for that? Or David Miller?
David Miller. David
There
Miller.
you go.
Remember David Miller
was on my team in Chatham in the cave. There you go.
How was he?
So I go, first day is 18 rounds, and you don't get your name selected. I'm like, man, I can do the math. 18 times 30 teams, and I'm like, I'm not even in the top 500. So when the Yankees called me day 2, I almost had my mindset was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to college. I'll just finish. I was just so disappointed. And the Yankees called and be like, I said, you know what? This might be a blessing in disguise. Let me go, Yankees, good organization. I'm going to catch. So I go to Oneonta, and my first coach is Rob Thompson, and another, sometimes the stars just align. Who's a great guy to have as your first manager in pro ball. He ends up being a third base coach for the Yankees, bench coach with the Phillies. Like, this is an accomplished guy. And, 2 weeks go by, and they told me, first we went to Tampa for like 3 days before the short season started. They put me at third base. I said, all right, I'll play third. I don't care. It's just 3 days. They told me after about a week or 10 days, I'd catch bullpens. I'd even catch batting practice. And when they thought I was ready, I'd catch in the game. So I was like, all right, well, 2 weeks in Oneonta go by, and I don't even have a catcher's mitt. I don't even have shin guards. So I go up to Thompson. I'm like, Thompson, am I gonna catch? And he said, well, Mark Newman, our head of player development, says he likes your hands and you're gonna stay at third. And I was really disappointed because you gotta hit homers at third. And I was like, I've never been a home run hitter. So I was like, uh-oh. And then Oneonta came, and in those 75 games, I think I made like 29 errors. So I was like, man, and I was just crushing the ball. I ended up with 1 home run. So the prospect of advancing as a third baseman was just not there. I really struggled. You play the middle.
Wow.
I played the middle infield my whole life. You kind of can play the ball, you take angles. And third base, it was just like, I felt like I was in self-defense mode. And you'll like this story, Case, because I don't know, you got the top prospects fly through the system, but in Oneonta, we played in front of 400 fans, and if they gave away hot dogs that night, it was 700. And man, I was like 0 for 4. I made 2 errors, and the fans are right there, and I hear this guy going, Mike, and I'm totally ignoring him. He goes, hey, Mike. And I'm like, you know what? Let me just not be that guy. It's our fans. I'm going to turn to him because I'm totally expecting him to be like, hey, you'll be all right, all this stuff. I turn to the guy, and just like deer in the headlights, he goes, Lowell, you're a horror to the game of baseball. A horror. And I was like, oh my God, I just stood right, and I had to take it. I had to swallow it. I was like, wow, so this is where it's coming. So this is where baseball is. And, thankfully I had good coaches, man. Mitch Kelleher was the infield instructor for the Yankees, and I kind of started learning angles. And but I would say it took me a legit 2 years to kind of understand how to play third base. And that's why I see guys like, Rafi Devers gets a lot of flack for being so bad. I said, man, these guys are so young. They're a product of how good hitters they are because they fly through the system. They don't have time to kind of learn third base at a high level. So, it's hard to learn a position under the microscope at the big leagues. And I had the luxury of doing it, in Greensboro and in Norwich and then in Columbus, Ohio. So, I didn't have cameras on me all the time. So it was an easier transition. And then, Case, you got to work at it. I just, a lot of ground balls. And, as I got stronger, I always had a good arm. So I really never felt like arm strength was going to be an issue. So I knew I could bank on that. For me, I was like, man, I got to hit. You got to hit. So, that's when, you mature into your frame and you feel a little better and things kind of started falling into place.
Mikey, talk about that. Cause it's funny. I was kind of the same guy. My power developed later. I played in Watertown, New York. So we played against each other in the Penn League. I hit 2 home runs, you know what I mean? And I'm like, man, I hit a ton of doubles, ball left center, right center. When did you start to find your power starting to develop? You know what I mean? Cause man, you had some of the quickest hands I've ever played with. What was the year in the minor leagues you're like, okay, I could hit for some power here?
I'd say it was instructional league after the 96 season. So after my first full season, I went to Greensboro. I hit well, I hit 280 plus and I hit 8 home runs, but I hit a lot of doubles and I drove in about 75 runs in the minor leagues, in 125 games, 130 games. That's actually pretty good. So I went to the instructional league and Gary Denbo was the Yankees minor league hitting guy. He's, general manager, head of player development for the Marlins now. And I tell you, he was an absolute workaholic. And he was a guy that I think he liked guys that enjoy being around the field and willing to work. And I remember when we would do instruction league, first day, he says, man, we got to get you out of pull mode. I don't want you to take away the fact that you can pull the ball, but we got to get you direct. So we would do this one-hand, top-hand drill where he put a tee almost on my back leg. And the whole morning, all I did was one hand and hit it, not even up the middle. I'm hitting it like towards the screen in front. It felt so weird. He goes, I need you to understand that this is the path that this hand needs to go. So, and the Yankees had a really unique way of doing instructionally. We would have like 4-inning scrimmages and everyone had their game plan. And Mark Newman said, okay, Lowell, for every ball you hit to the right side of center field, I'm going to give you $5. If you get a base hit, I'm going to give you 20. If you get an extra base hit that way or a 2-strike hit, I'm going to give you $50. Now, mind you, in the instruction, we're getting paid $7 a day. So $20, $50, we're like, oh my God, I'm going that way. And pitchers were like, every first pitch strike to a hitter, you get $5. So it was you got incentivized to follow the game plan that they wanted each guy to develop. So when I got to that point and I felt like I really had my swing dialed in, so I said, man, it's on me now to come back stronger. And that's that off season where I say, I kind of developed. After that first full season, I think I weighed about 187. So after a year and a half in the minor leagues, I think I gained, probably 8 pounds. And then when I showed up to spring training, I think I came in at like 202, first time in my life. I was over 200 pounds. And I knew batting practice was different when I was hitting, back home getting ready for spring training. And, Case, in the big leagues, when you have your job set up, you can use spring training to kind of peak at the right time. The last 5-7 days, you really want to be feeling good. For the minor leagues, I was hitting since Christmas, and I wanted to peak day one. So it's a very different mindset. But you need kind of positive feedback. So for me, my first scrimmage, I remember I really had the path dialed in. In batting practice, I'm in good line drives up the middle. I'm still staying inside the ball, hitting balls to left field without fouling them off. And I remember my second at bat, I got a pitch down the middle, and I went deep dead center. It was the first time in my life that I ever hit a ball out that was not left center or left field.
Yes.
So I was like, wow. So I got instant feedback. And then the next day, I remember, I think we played the Cardinals. I think Blake Stein was a number 1 pick of the Cardinals before he got traded to Oakland. And I think it was him I was facing. And I went deep just right of center. And I was like, oh my God, like I found something. Like there's something here. So it made me realize that, gosh, this approach that Gary really, put in my head of thinking center is correct, because it allowed me to kind of have that direct path. When the ball's inside, I could still keep it fair and hit it hard. But when that ball's middle or just a little bit away, I could still be rewarded. And, usually, I had played 3 weeks in high A ball the year before. So I always thought I'm going to start in high A ball. But I started hitting so good, and I was with the double A team. I was like, man, I might make this team. So sure enough, I had a real good spring. I went there, and then I kind of carried that approach into it. And I remember working out with my best buddy, my buddy Ralph. I was like, he goes, well, what do you hope? I said, man, 15, 16 home runs, and I'd be delighted. I hit 8 the year before. 15, 16, I think is great. And I had 15 by like June 1st. I was like, oh. Wow. So I got called up to AAA, and it kept going, and I hit another 17. So I was like, I figured something out. There's something that was just clicking, man. So from there, I think I got to the point where that following instruction league, now I'm taking batting practice with guys that have been in the big leagues. And I use Andy Fox as a guy, utility guy, but he's played the big leagues the whole year in '96 with the World Series team, So I was with him in '97 a little bit in AAA. And then I saw him taking batting practice, and I'm like, my batting practice is a little bit better than his. I go, if he's a big leaguer, I go, I know I can make it to the big leagues now. So that's when, I don't know, the switch that I flipped the switch there, saying I'm underachieving if I don't make it to the big leagues. I don't know if I'm going to stay, but I got to make it. I got to make it because I knew I had the ability to just consistently put at bats and do some damage.
This is such good stuff. So I love the approach with Denbo because I know he's kind of Jeter's guy. Gary Denbo's Jeter's guy. Obviously, he was a lot of guys that came up in the minors around that time for the Yankees. Of his approach to right center, I always try and tell my kids and kids that I coach, when you start to go to right center or left center as a lefty, you open up the pull side. It's the exact opposite. A lot of times we get up there and we try and pull, and we think that's the power zone. If you're staying right center, dead center as a righty, you're going to open up the pull side because that's pretty easy to do, right? Is that, and did that become your approach for the rest of your career?
100%. And I admit it, my power was pull side, and everyone's like, so what'd you do? You just worked on pulling and yanking? I said, man, it's so the opposite. Like everything I did, and I think my preparation really took off with Dave Magadan with the Red Sox. We had him. And I would do that tee drill where I would put the tee really far inside and back, almost an awkward, approach. I never wanted to hit a ball in the game that way. But what it did was you felt like you were so locked in that if you could hit a soft line drive up the middle there, it told you that you have enough room to clear your hands to get to that pitch. Now, I never want to hit the ball here. When you put the tee a little bit out in front and you let your hands free, I was like, wow, I could really open up. So, and hitting case for me at the pro level, it's a learned behavior. I needed 1,000 at bats in the minor leagues to understand what I did good and what I didn't. And I tell people, well, right center, I try to take that same approach, and I would crush some balls to right center, and it'd go to the warning track, and they'd catch it, and everyone's like, hey, good swing. But I didn't get rewarded. I didn't have the swing. I didn't have the physics of the mechanics, or I didn't have the strength. I don't know. But I really believe that I kind of had two different swings. When I'm middle direct, I kind of wanted to hit a line drive, hard ground ball. And then when I got my middle in, I knew I could kind of put a little loft on it. So I really tried to get on top of the ball when it was away, and then kind of take my natural, to do damage, let's say, on his mistake. But it was all based on being directed to right center, because I realized after those at-bats that, man, I could get a ball that's this far inside for a ball and still hit it hard fair. When if you're putting this on the black outside, I just can't do any damage with it. So I that made me realize I got to be a little closer to the plate than most guys, because I liked guys that threw hard and threw in. For whatever reason, my hands were able to turn on balls and be quick enough. So velocity never bothered me. Guys with the nasty slider and the cutters away, those guys were a lot of problems for me. So you learn what you do better, and then you kind of make the adjustment to, I said, man, if I'm going to lose, this guy's got to be able to dot that outside corner with that pitch over and over. And did it happen? Yeah, I lost. I went over 4 million times, but I felt like that put me in a position where at least if he made a mistake, I had a chance to do something good.
You guys are so freaking, the hitters, you guys that played that I've worked with who were great hitters are so much more cerebral than most people. Like that, Mike, you just, in case I've heard you do this all the time too, like the thoughts that go into, I played in college baseball. I never had thoughts like that. You guys are big leaguers because your minds work just as fast as your hands on turning on a fastball. It's brilliant.
Well,
That was
Chinch,
awesome.
it's almost survival of the fittest, because if you don't, they eat
Yep.
you up. And
Yep.
and for me, I don't know about you, Case. I think we're similar in this, where I was not a guess hitter. I was not a guess hitter, and I remember my first big league camp. Tim Raines was great to me. Louis Soho was great to me. These were bench guys at this point in their career for the Yankees, and I just wanted to soak up all the stuff. So I remember asking Rock Raines. I mean, this guy is Hall of Fame, Rock Raines. I go, Rock, do you guess? And he said to me, every single pitch. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to play in the big leagues. I never guess. I go, this Hall of Famer guesses all the time, and he's so fast. So you learn that there are different approaches. And I tell you, the one guy for me that really had that approach of understanding and almost setting up pitches was Kevin Millar. My rookie year, I remember Kevin Millar would tell me, if I had a 1-0, if a lefty missed with an 0-0 fastball, he told me he is sitting changeup and he's hoping that he either gets changeup or that the pitcher throws a fastball for a strike. And I was like, okay, why? He says, because if he threw 0-0 fastball for a ball and then 1-0 fastball for a strike, then I'm definitely sitting on the third one because he's never going to throw 3 fastballs in a row. And I was like, what? I was like, no. If I got a 1-0 fastball and I took a fastball for a strike from a lefty, first I'd be pissed. And then if I sat here but he threw me a third fastball for a strike, I would have blown up. Case knows I've blown up a helmet here and there. I'd go nuts. So, he had an approach where he knew that he could sit on pitches. And that's his learned behavior. Like for me, Case, I think you're with me. I've never struck out 100 times in this.
Never.
So
I never did either.
So for me, I learned if I sat on pitches, what happened was I'd guess maybe 1 out of 50 pitches. If I got the pitch I was guessing, I swung at it. So sometimes I was out of the zone, I still swing at it because my eyes got so big that I guessed right that I'm swinging. And when I looked fastball and I adjusted, I felt like I was still on time and I was able to adjust to some of the off-speed pitches. So I don't know. Maybe you could say I was guessing because today's a little different, but back then, every pitcher threw 60% heaters. Well, I'm going to look for the one that I'm going to get more than half the time, and it's the pitch I handled the best. So I felt like I didn't have the need. Now, in today's game, guys can throw so hard. Like, I put it like Smoltzy and Rob Nen, for me, were the 2 guys when they were closing. When Smoltzy was closing, I felt like if I didn't sit on a pitch, I couldn't, because he was throwing a slider at 91, his splitty at 92, and his fastball at 97, and never down the middle. I felt like calling time. I'm Smoltzy. Can you miss one down the middle, man? Like when Randy Johnson was at the plate, on the mound, and he's pumping 98 with a slider. I felt like saying, Randy, you take like 10 steps back. You're too close. You look like you're throwing from 30 feet away. It's not fair.
So good.
Dude, Mikey, I love it. It's so true. I was never a guess hitter either. And for me, I was always hunt the fastball and adjust to the curveball, slider, anything up. I let my eyes adjust to it. I remember talking to George Brett, one of my first spring trainings. I'm with the Reds. George Brett's behind the turtle, and I'm like, oh my God, George Brett, we're playing the Royals. And I went up to him and I asked him, I said, hey, can you tell me what your approach was at the plate? And he's one of the best hitters of all time. He's like, hunt the fastball. He's like, hunt the heater, short to it, long through it. And I was like you, Mikey. I always say to myself, like, I didn't want pitches. There was I remember Eduardo Perez was one of the best guys at getting pitches. He'd always come up to me my first couple of years in that case. I got the pitches. You want them? I'd say, no, I don't want them because I'm worse. Because if I know a slider's coming, my mind goes, oh yeah, slider. And I swing. But no one is hitting a nasty slider in the big leagues. It just ain't happening. So I had to kind of get off that and go back to my ways. Like you said, hey, if my way doesn't work, I'm going to be in trouble. But what I found was hunt the fastball, adjust to the off-speed stuff, and it really worked. Mikey, I want to shift gears a little bit off the hitting to talk about your call. I like to ask every guy that comes on here, tell us about your call to the big leagues. Where were you? What was happening? I know
Boring.
it's really good.
Mine's not a good story. You know, I got called up in '98, and if you remember that year, the Yankees just were boat racing everyone.
Mhm.
So literally, Stump Merrill was my AAA manager, and he goes, "We were not in the playoffs that year," and he goes, "Well, guys, in 3 days, about 8 of you are going to go up because they're kicking everyone's ass, and they're going to take the last month as spring training. So you guys can Cadillac for them." And I was like, "Man, that's not exciting." I was like, "What?" But either way, you know, my first day on an active big league roster was I flew to Boston because I'm with the Yankees. So Yankees, Red Sox, I think it's like September 7th or something. There's 22 games left in the season. And it was Pedro against, I think, Hideki Arabu. I mean, the place was nuts.
Wow.
And I was like, I remember turning to Luis Soho and I'm like, is this how it is in the big leagues every day? And he goes, when the Yankees play the Red Sox, it is. You know, so I was like, wow. You know, that was my first day. So the Yankees win, and they clinch the division with 19 games left. So my first day in the big leagues, everyone's popping champagne. I'm like, I don't even have an at bat. I'm just sat in the corner with the other guys that haven't done anything. Everyone's pouring champagne, spraying. I was like, all right, I grabbed the beer and I poured it on my head and I drank it. I'm like, yeah, we clinched. So, and then we go back to New York, and actually, it wasn't Arabu because Arabu was, I think, my second big league game. Still not playing. We're playing the Blue Jays. And I remember Scott Brocious said, man, Roger Clemens, I hit him good, and he smokes me every time I'm up if I get a hit. I was like, nah, this ain't going to happen. So sure enough, you know, things are happening. Scott Brocious comes up, boom, line drive hit off Clemens. All right, I go back around the lineup, and Ricky Leday, who was my roommate in AAA, you know, Clemens always had a little bit of an issue of young guys taking big swings off him. There's a runner on third, like 1 out. Ricky takes this monster hack. Just misses him. He goes to the track in right field. Guy catches a sac fly. 2 outs, no one on. Brocious comes to the plate. The Rocket puts it right in his ribs. And I was like, oh my God, there is something to it. So Hideki Arabu's on the mound. This is day 2 for me now. First we clinched, now day 2. Shannon Stewart is leading off the inning. I've known Shannon Stewart since I was 16. He went to Southridge High. They were in our district. We played against each other. So he's leading off. Hideki Arabu smokes Shannon Stewart, and he charges home plate. Forget Shannon Stewart. Arabu charges home plate. So I'm like, oh my God, now we're in a brawl. So day 1, we clinched. Day 2, I'm in a brawl. Jose Canseco's on this team and all that.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, what do I do? So I remember I saw Jose Cruz Jr., who was the only guy I knew, and I was like, hey, I'll kind of just grab you and you grab me, you know, whatever. And then I turn around and Homer Bush, who was with is holding Canseco down. And I was like, oh my God, this is for real. And then everything's around home plate. So you have all the fans going there. And then Darryl Strawberry, boom, haymaker comes in. Everything goes nuts. I was like, where am I, dude? This is crazy. So that was like, I didn't have a great call, but my first 2 days were kind of exciting before I actually played. So
that is an amazing story. But Mikey, by the way, there's a story. I've worked in sports for over 20 years with a lot of athletes. There is no story I relay to more people than the one you told me. You mentioned Scott Brocious. Scott Brocious, Brian Cashman, and your eventual trade to the Marlins. Can you tell us this? Because it's unbelievable, everybody. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, you know, when I signed in '95, so '96 the Yankees win the World Series. So you know you're in an organization where they're competing. You know, so '97 I get up to AAA. '98 I get my call up. They win. Now because of the rosters, it was the same thing back then. They had kind of guys practicing in Tampa in case someone got hurt. So I'm there it was actually a really good time to kind of learn and do, you know, you worked out during the day and then we'd watch the Yankee games. And for me, it was with Lee Mazzilli. Lee Mazzilli was a great, you know, New Yorker, played for the Mets, coach for the Yankees. So we actually had a couple beers. We were in the hotel. We watched, he wasn't afraid to drop a heater. And we watched the Yankee games. So the playoffs start. Had another good year. So I've been in AAA a year and a half. I just didn't want to go back. Brocious is a free agent. And my agents are out of New York, Sam and Seth Levinson. And Seth calls Brian Cashman. they talked a lot, and Cashman said, the only way Mike is not our starting third baseman next year is if we go to the World Series, we win the World Series, and Scott Brocious is a World Series MVP. He goes, because then I'm going to have to re-sign him. So I was like, all right, dude. And Brocious had a great year. And I tell you, Brocious was great to me in spring training because, I remember I got off to a hot start. I went like 2 for 7 with a couple doubles. Brocious is 0 for 9. And our lockers are next to each other. And, that's where you kind of realize what a different media situation it is to be in New York. And he literally, they were like, hey, Mike, don't you want to show the veteran what you're all about? You're here to take his job. He's coming off a season where he hit like 202 for the Oakland A's. And I was like, no, I'm just trying to work hard. I gave a great political answer. Like, thanks, Mike. Hey, Scott, don't you think this young guy's out of the league? You're just, and they're trying to put you against each other. And he was, very political as well. Everyone leaves. And Scott, I remember, turns to me and he says, if you're good enough to play in the big leagues and I'm good enough to play in the big leagues, we're both going to be in the big leagues, just on different teams. And I was like, wow, what a thing for a veteran guy to tell a young guy. And I even told him, I wish you were an asshole. Because then I had a reason to root against him, but I couldn't root against him. And he had a monster year in 98. He hit in the 9-hole. I think he drove in like 98 runs. He had a monster year, and he always played great defense. So I was like, but I still like my chances. What are the odds that he's going to win World Series MVP? They go to World Series, win the World Series. Well, A, B, and C both are done. So honestly, I'm depressed. I'm depressed, and I remember I got a call from Brian Cashman in the offseason, and he goes, Mike, I'm giving you my word that you're going to be traded, and it's going to be to a team where you can start your big league career. And I didn't know what to think of it at the time. A GM might be telling you something you want to hear to keep you motivated, blah, blah, blah. So November rolls around, December rolls around, January rolls around. And then at the end of January, we had like a prospect camp for pre-spring training. And, I'll be honest, I was a little frustrated. I just, I was 24 now, going on 25. I didn't want to be in AAA now for a third year because I was scared I was going to get to 26, 27. And then now what? Now you're considered old. And sure enough, on February 1st, Cashman called me. I was rooming with Clay Bellinger, Cody Bellinger's dad. And he told me, Mike, I traded you to the Marlins. So for me, everyone can only deal with their own experiences. Brian Cashman was just so upfront and honest with me that I always appreciated that. It was something that, in this world, when someone gives you their word and they fall through, well, for me, he's a man.
Wow, that's so good, man. So good. Talk about the highs and the highs in, sometimes in life you get hit right when you just think everything is going right. You get traded to the Marlins, and it's a situation where you're going to play every day and you're going to be the starting third baseman, and then you get hit with testicular cancer, right? That was that first spring training, right, Mikey?
Yeah, it was 17 days after I got traded. I remember I was so excited because everyone's like, why are you upset? You're going from the Yankees, who are awesome, to the Marlins, who suck. And I said, yeah, but the worst big league team is so much better than the best AAA team, because I wasn't going to be on the Yankees. They're not going to have a prospect sit on their bench. So, and then coming home, I never had a problem going back to my dad. I never felt pressure playing in front of my dad or my friends. So I was like, oh my God, this is great. Everyone's going to be able to see me play. So I was like, I'm going home. I'm going to spring training. I'm going to take 4 underwears and 2 pairs of jeans. I don't even need to pack. This is great. So literally it was our team physicals, Case, before every year, everyone has our team physicals, and I go see the doctor. You see everyone, the eye guy, they're doing EKGs, and I felt great. And, you go to the internist, and he's like, hey, cough, this and that. He's like, you remember, a collision? Did you get hit with a ground ball? And I was like, man, I think if I got hit in my nuts, I'd remember it. Yeah. And he's like, well, I think we should just take another test. So I went to the hospital, and I was thinking nothing of it. And all of a sudden, you hear the doctors, they're mumbling, and I was doing an ultrasound, and I was like, uh-oh, what's going on? So sure enough, right there, they were like, we think there's a chance that this is cancerous. And I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't feel anything, And I've been married 4 months, and I tell you, Case, this was Fort Lauderdale. I was living in Miami, and I cried by myself all the way home. I was like, how do I tell my parents this? How do I tell my wife? How do I tell my brothers? So yeah, to say that was a low, I still think of it. I still, get a little choked up. And So literally the next day I go back to Fort Lauderdale, and the doctor that's going to do the operation, the first thing he says to me is congratulations. And I look at him, I'm like, what? You know, he's like, congratulations. And I said, look, doc, man, I don't know if you know me or not, but I'm in no mood to joke around. You know, I don't understand. He goes, well, the reason I'm telling you is no matter how progressed this is, you're going to beat it. So I was like, oh, you know, my mindset really changed, because 4 years before, my grandmother died of cancer. So that's the first, I was uneducated on what type of cancer I had. You know, right. You hear cancer, and I'm like, am I dead? And I was pissed, you know, because I was like, God, I worked so hard to get to this point, and then something out of my control is going to derail it. So, you know, I was angry, you know, I was frustrated. And I think you got to the point where once I finished, I had the surgery, and as upset as I was kind of for the doctor finding it later, you're so happy that he found it. And it was so early that, you know, I didn't need chemotherapy. I did have radiation. It crushed me. I mean, I puked probably 10 times that first day. I couldn't hold anything down for about, 4 weeks. But then when I kind of started filtering my way back, I think it was another, another piece of motivation where I was like, I don't want cancer to be the reason why I'm not a big leaguer. You know, maybe I could be a big leaguer that helps other people maybe down the road with cancer. So, you know, I remember I was actually rehabbing with Calgary. I keep mentioning Kevin Millar, and, you know, he gets called up, and I usually swung a 32-ounce bat. I went down to 31 ounces, and I swear a donut was on. I was like, how does this feel so heavy? You know, it just, all my strength was so zapped, and I was like, I can't even swing a 31-ounce bat. And I truly believe if I was diagnosed, I think I was depressed at the time, which I think everyone could understand. I was just like, God, let me just keep getting stronger and stronger. And sure enough, you know, this was February. I think by around August, you know, I had gotten called up, and I finally started feeling stronger. When in August and September, guys are breaking down. And, you know, that's where, let's call it GM number 2. I've had a lot of good luck with GMs. You know, it was Dave Dombrowski. And Dombrowski came up to me when the diagnosis was there, and he was like, Mike, I hadn't played an inning for the guy. You know what I mean? And he was like, take your time. I was on a special exemption with, you know, Major League Baseball, where I could do a rehab assignment for as long as I needed. So the catch there was I was making Major League minimum. It was $200,000 at the time. So I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life. So I remember Dave Dombrowski calls me, and he's like, you know, Kevin Ory was a third baseman at the time, and he kind of had a bad wrist. He's like, Mike, we're going to put Kevin Ory on the DL, you know, retroactive, you know, 4 days. So he's got 11 days left. Back then, you know, it was a 15-day DL. I'm thinking of calling you up. What do you think? And I was like, I don't understand. He goes, well, if I call you up, I'm probably going to send you back down. And when you get sent back down, it's an option. And now you're going to make minor league money. So it was making $2,000 a month versus 40 grand a month, you know, 200,000 versus 12,000.
No thanks.
And yeah, so he was like, I just want to let you know that there's a big financial, I don't know how he put it. You know, your salary's going to be very different when I send you back down. What do you think? And I was at the point, I was like, you know what? I don't care. I want to be in the big leagues. And I said, you know what? I'll take that chance. I don't care. Wow. So I played 11 days, and thank God never saw the minor leagues ever again.
Wow.
That's unbelievable. I got one quick follow on that, Mikey, because I don't think we ever talked about this, but I had stage 4 melanoma when I was 25 years old, but with this little scar in my head. And there's 2 things you just said that like hit me like a ton of bricks, because I remember it too. Like, how am I going to talk to my family? And the other thing was like, I feel great, because I was the same way. I walked into a surgery feeling I was 25 years old and in the best shape of my life. And I walked out of the surgery and had cancer and was trying to survive. That combined with looking at your family and saying, like, one thing that resonated with me, not to get too deep, was like, I was looking at all them like, no, I can't leave them. I got to be good. I'm strong. And I never got that little feeling of, oh, life is a blessing, because I was so like, I'm beating this. Like, did you feel the same way? And, or do you think about, I still think about it now as you get older, you're like, holy shit, I could have been dead like 20 years ago, but I'm not, you know?
Well, my mom always said it: when you're young, the ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
I thought it was worse than it was. So yeah, but I'm with you, Chinch. I was so motivated on not letting cancer be the reason why I didn't make it to the big leagues that it took me. I think it actually took me 2 or 3 years when I was kind of approached by the Marlins Foundation, and my wife was like, "Hey, why don't we set up a foundation?" Like, I was tunnel vision, man. Like, not that I didn't care about other people going on, but I had a lot on my plate right now. And I do remember what the thing that struck me tremendously was when I would go into radiation. That department in Miami at the hospital is, where all the chemotherapy is and all that. And you see, you see 8-year-old kids
Oh my
that
God.
are bald.
Yep.
And you see their parents, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I'm complaining? No
Mhm.
way. I can't
Yeah,
complain.
that's part of their survival, right? You look and you're like, if that kid can do it, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
So
Let's get
thanks
positive
for making me
now.
tear up on this. This is
I know,
awesome.
honestly, yes. Case, do something funny. Fart or something.
That's what we do in the mayor's office here, man. I'm sitting here with you both the story, listen to both you guys. Like, I can't believe it. But so, Mikey, after all that happens, like you said, you come up for those couple weeks, you start raking. And I played against you, bro. So I was like, we played against each other in the Cape. And then, I think you feel the same way. Same draft class. You follow those guys. They become like your brothers, even though you're not teammates. I'm like, man, Mikey Lowell's doing it. He's doing it. And then when you came up, you started raking, right? And you had some great teams over there. You become a star with the Marlins. You go to the All-Star game, I believe, in 2002. You were RBI machine, doubles machine, and with some big time pop, and became a Gold Glove third baseman. I loved you over there too, like just how you could pick it. One of the things I wanted to go to was the 2003 team with the Marlins, because you guys go into that series against the Cubs, and it looks like the Cubs are finally going to get to the World Series and win the whole thing. But here you guys are with the 2003 Marlins. You got Dealey at first. You got Luis Castillo, Alex Gonzalez, you at third, Pudge at home. I mean, you guys are absolutely loaded, right, with some young talent. Miguel Cabrera's coming out party. Can you take us back to that series? Because Chinch and I were talking, and we were like, oh, my God, Mikey Lowe was involved in the Bartman game, right? and I know it became a bigger deal later, but it seemed like a big deal then at Wrigley when it was happening. Could you take us back to that game and the comeback that you guys had, and just even maybe that play with Alou? And you were playing third. So did you go out for that ball with Bartman? Were you close to that play?
No, we were hitting. So Alou.
Oh, that's right. You guys were hitting. That's right, Alou. Yeah, right.
But I'll take you even further. It was so satisfying because we weren't even expected to win the wild card. And then in the first round, we're playing the Giants, who went to the World Series the year before. And I've always said, if this team was in a big market, they'd do like a 30 for 30 or something, because the way we won games, like to eliminate the Giants, was that collision with JT Snow and Pudge and all that. So we had a lot of crazy games. If you go back even game 2 with the Giants, Jose Cruz Jr. drops a fly ball, routine fly ball. He won the Gold Glove that year. And then we scored like 3 runs. So you go to the Cubs, and the craziest part about the Cubs series is when we lose game 4 at home, that means we're down 3-1. So picture this. You go to the stadium to play game 5. We had to pack, assuming we won game 5. Then there'd be an off day. Then you had to win 6. Then you had to win 7.
Against
then
Wood and Pryor, right?
Day.
Wood and Pryor, right? That's who you guys are going to have to beat in your
Pryor
primes.
And Wood.
Yeah.
You had to beat those 3. If you got past that, we still have to pack for an off day, and then you were either going to New York or Boston because the American League won the All-Star game that year. So we had to pack for 7 days, but we didn't know if we'd be done in 3 hours. It was really weird. So Beckett he's lights out in game 5. He tells like a shutout, all this. We go to the Bartman game, and mind you, Pryor's just shoving it right up our ass.
Right.
And the Bartman thing, yes, it happened. It kind of made, but we didn't understand what was going on because we didn't have the telecast. We're in the dugout. So I remember Mark Redmond, not Mike Redmond, Mark Redmond, our lefty pitcher. He kept saying, let's make him famous, kind of saying, let's take advantage of that because we didn't think Lou had a chance to catch the ball. And then all of a sudden, there's a cop at the end of the dugout for security. He's kind of in that camera well. And then the camera guy goes, you're not going to believe what's going on. He's hearing the audio of the game. He's like, they're crushing this guy. He's like a Cubs fan. He's got headphones on. And then Mark Redmond was like, we got to make that guy famous. We got to make that guy famous, not knowing how famous he was going to be.
Oh, my God.
So then the craziest part of it, yes, Luis Castillo ends up getting on base. But like 7 guys come to the plate, and Miguel Cabrera hits a tailor-made double play to Alex Gonzalez, the Cubs shortstop, who that year led the league in fielding percentage for shortstops. So for him to boot that ball, well, guess what? After Miguel, D-Lee still had to come up. He hits a big, like so many things. Like it wasn't just Bartman. Bartman was a foul ball.
Right,
we were still down 3-1 in the 8th inning with an out. So it was crazy, man. We didn't get the scope as players of how the Bartman thing really panned out. So like after we're seeing, and you see a guy throwing a pizza at him, and then he's walking in the concourse, and they're dropping F-bombs on the guy, and like they just want to hang him in the middle of the street. So it was weird because everyone just like, wasn't the Bartman thing crazy? I'm like, yeah, it just looked like someone put their hand out for a foul ball. We were so out of it. But once we won that game, we were like, man, we had that. The thing with that team, which was great, is I would say my only regret as a big leaguer was that team didn't have a chance to stay together because we didn't re-sign Pudge. We didn't give him the 4th year. We ended up then trading D-Lee. And we had what every team in the big leagues, even today, wants. You want dominating, young pitching that's cheap. I mean, Beckett wasn't even arbitration eligible. The only guy arbitration eligible was Pavano. So we had Beckett, Brad Penny, Dontrell was a rookie, went 9-0 his first 9 starts. We had Pavano. A.J. Burnett got Tommy John in April. We were getting A.J. Burnett back next year. So we were like, man, I think we're primed to be that team where, are you going to win multiple World Series? I don't know. But I thought we'd be that team that could go to the playoffs, maybe 4 out of 5 years before guys get really expensive. And then whatever, if you're the hot team, maybe you do something special. So that was, that team was just set up to win. I mean, Miguel Cabrera was 20. Put Pudge, our infield had been together since 99. We had Juan Pierre in center, and then we had a combination of Juan Encarnacion and Jeff Conine in left. We had defense, we had speed, we had good arms, we had pitching, we had Pudge behind the plate. So that was a well constructed team. I wish that could have been able to play out a little bit.
Yeah, wow, you guys were loaded, and playing against you guys, you could see, like you said, the future, especially with that staff coming. You're like, these guys are loaded. So after that, bro, you win the World Series against the Yankees. That must have kind of felt pretty good for you to, I don't know, they gave you the chance. Did you feel that a little bit when you beat the Yankees? Like, man, that felt good?
Publicly, I said no to everyone. Inside, 1,000,000%. It's got to be. It's human nature, right? You want to play well against the team that, not that they gave up on you, because I actually think Brian Cashman did me a favor, but you always kind of want to show them, hey, look what you missed out on. So for me to actually, have a couple big hits in that World Series and then celebrate in Yankee Stadium, that was the coolest part. That's old Yankee Stadium, where it was still the Bronx Zoo. It's close. Like I tell people, you're going to stretch at third base, you're going down the third base line, and you think they changed the name on the back of your jersey. I think instead of Lowell, they would put "You Suck," because they'd be like, "Hey, 19, you suck." I'm like, dude, did someone put "You Suck" on the back of my jersey? So they're on you. I think. Right.
And Beckett was talking shit that entire series, right? Beckett was talking shit to the press like a maniac.
Yes, great atmosphere. And, it's 99%. I mean, the Marlins fans, hell, we didn't draw in our own stadium, let alone how many, we're going to have 12 fans, in Yankee Stadium. So all I remember is looking at the family section, which was like first level behind home plate all the way back. And Josh, he throws a 2-hit shutout. After each inning, you just see a couple hands going like that. And then, I think they go down because they didn't want to have beers thrown at them or whatever. But then it just got a little bit better. And, for me, I still have the picture, with my closest teammates there. I mean, we're literally on the logo in Yankee Stadium with cigars in our hand. and the World Series trophy in the middle. You can't script that one.
So,
That's
so great, dude. Wow, talk about full circle, coming full circle. So you get traded. A couple years later, you finish off with the Marlins, have an unbelievable career, and then you and Beckett end up getting traded to the Red Sox, right? So I want to fast forward a little bit because I want to go to 2007. You have an unbelievable year. You're raking the whole season, and then the World Series comes. Can you take us through that, man, of how locked in you were in the World Series throughout the season, postseason, but in the World Series, and then you get named World Series MVP, which is like, as a player, the dreams to get to the big leagues. The dream within the dream is the World Series, and then you're in another stratosphere when you're World Series MVP. Can you talk us through that a little bit and your time in Boston and what that was like for you?
I'd love to. I would say out of my whole career, my one down year when I was healthy was 2005. And I hit 237, and I just felt like nothing ever clicked. So when I get traded, I was on years 3 and 4 of a 4-year deal with the Marlins that was heavily backloaded. So I tell people, man, this was a salary dump. Beckett was the key to that trade, and they were like, and the Marlins told the Red Sox, hey, if you take Beckett, you got to take Lowell and his contract. And I think one thing that did help me is that John Henry was the owner, so he knew me with the Marlins when he owned the Marlins. So he kind of knew this is a guy who's not going to ruffle feathers. He's going to come to work every day. Maybe he still has something, So I think it was kind of maybe an educated guess, not as much of a gamble as maybe another team that had no idea the type of person or player I was. So I'd like to think that at least. 06, I felt like I kind of found my stroke again. And then 07 is just one of those special years, man, where everything came together. We had Pedroia, Youkilis. I mean, I'm hitting 5th, and I'm hitting behind Pedroia, Youkilis, David Ortiz, and Manny Ramirez, and 4 on-base machines. So, I mean, I drove in 120 runs. I hit like 22 home runs. So, I mean, I was just always hitting with runners on base, but I did hit 325. That was my best year by far. So, I was coming through a lot.
Mikey, what about the your swing when your swing was tailor made for the monster. I mean, did you find that year? Like, oh my gosh, you kidding me?
I found that I think the monster could be your best friend or your worst enemy, and I found that ironically, despite left field being forgiving, like you could just miss a ball and then you'll cheat a double. I found myself in my preparation trying to be more direct than ever. Because I was like, if I can keep these balls that are in fair, I can steal 12, 15 hits a year because I don't have to square them up. So the worst thing I wanted to do was hit a rocket foul to left field because I was like, I'm not even taking advantage of what I do best. So it was weird that where the fence was closest and most advantageous for me as a pull hitter was when I focused up the middle, right center, more than I ever did in my career. And I think I really carried it over. It just put me, it's just one of those years where I just felt in sync for 6 straight months. So then when the playoffs started, I always felt like, man, what a shame these guys that have monster years and in the playoffs, they don't do anything, And I was like, God, would it be the ultimate throwing it away that I had this career year and not do anything in the playoffs? I go, I gotta be able to do the same thing, So for me, it was a lot of, you do a little bit of, an examination of your conscience and saying, hey, it's a regular game. I've done it for 162. Don't change anything. That's where I think, you want to keep your heartbeat like the regular season. Is it the same? No way it's not the same. The crowd's crazy. We saw it last night in the Red Sox game. Like the crowd's crazy. Everything's different, but you got to be able to kind of take all those distractions out. And I think for me, the most satisfying part was I hit well in the division series. I hit well in the ALCS. And then, like I tell people, you're a kid playing wiffle ball. Like I played a lot of wiffle ball growing up. And this happens all the time. Game 7 of the World Series, I'm up 2 outs, bases loaded, boom, grand slam, wiffle ball, oh, we're the champs. Like all those scenarios play out in the backyard. And I tell people, Bud Selig handing me a World Series MVP trophy was never, ever in the conversation of anything you dreamed about.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, oh, I kicked your ass, I'm the champ, I'm the best, this and that. Never like the trophy ceremony. So, like I said, there's the cake, there's the icing on the cake. The World Series MVP, it wasn't even in the invitation to come to the party. So it's just, I think if the most special thing I think about the World Series MVP for me is I'm proud of the fact that when, I guess you could say, the lights were the brightest, when the games meant the most, that I was really able to shine in those games. That means a lot to me. That when, especially times where Game 3, you walk Manny Ramirez, and you know what? If I'm the other team, I'd walk Manny Ramirez every single time to face me. But you got to come through. If not, it's going to keep happening. And I came through in those situations, and I felt like it was an extra dagger to the guys. Like, hey, you got to think twice about walking someone to get to me. And just that year, it all just played in, man. And it was just a really special year. And I think it just kind of entrenched me into such a great relationship with the fans in Boston, because I don't know, there's certain cities that kind of have a feel. And Boston, for me, had a feel of the way I approached. Like, I think one of my faults was I think I gave too much importance to each at-bat. You gave too much importance to each game. But I was like, that's the only way I know how to do it. And I think the Red Sox are kind of the same way. They're fans. Like, some may say you give too much importance to losing to the Yankees in April. Well, that's how they're wired, man. That's the way it is. So I just felt a really cool connection with the city and how they looked at the game. It was the way I looked at the game.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, I want to say playing with you in 2008 in Boston was a thrill for me to see how the fans loved you. Like, I was like, you were such a fan favorite, Red Sox Hall of Fame. I mean, it's amazing. But I admired, because the bottom line is when you play in Boston, they're hardworking people. They get after it every day. Like Mike Lowell, you come watch Mike Lowell play, you see effort, you see diving for balls, you see big time hits, right? And I appreciated that relationship that you guys, that the fans had with you in Boston. I think, that was really awesome. Really quick, Mike, a couple things to end it here. Who did you own and who owned you, brother? Who did you own and who owned you?
All right. Well, I got 3 real good names that I owned.
Okay.
I owned Mike Mussina. Why? I don't know. He had 5 pitches, but for some reason, I saw the ball out of his hand like a beach ball.
Wow.
I owned Greg Maddux. And it doesn't filter into the way I hit, but he never came inside. So I just get a little single to right field. And I think he's such a competitor that he got so upset that I would get hits to right field that he started coming in. And you can't come in with 89, 90. Maybe when he had 93. So I think I have the most home runs in my career off Greg Maddux. It was 4. And I own Tom Glavine.
Wow.
Those 3. So those are the ones where I can brag. Now,
That's decent.
2 lefties that haunt me. Glendon Rush. Glendon Rush would throw 88-mile-an-hour 4-seamers down the middle. He owned me. Owned me. I couldn't get a hit off Glendon Rush. And Jared Washburn. I didn't face him a lot, but I think I'm 0-for-9, and he'd throw that little tantalizing heater belt high, and you want to hit it to the moon, and you end up with a little pop-up to short. And you look up, and you're 0-for-4, and you're like, how the hell did I go? And they own me. I can't do anything. So I could brag that I own 3 Hall of Famers, but maybe 2 guys that are probably at best a 3 on their own team. Bro, had me. The other guy that semi-owned me, which you'll like this one, Case, was John Lackey. And I hated John Lackey.
Oh, yeah.
Antics on the field, all this stuff. I'm like, oh, this guy's so full of shit, this and that. So we trade for him. He comes to Boston. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be one of those guys. Dude, he comes up to me. He's like, hey, man, what's up, Mike? And I was like, wow, super nice guy. So I asked him, I go, Lack, I'm like 1 for 15 off you. Am I tipping in the batter's box? Do I move around? And he's like, no, man, I'm just throwing sliders and heaters, see what happens. I was like, he ended up being one of my favorite, just to show you, don't judge a book by its cover, one of my all-time favorite teammates, man. Because someone came up and in, he'd come, you want me to drill him? I'm like, no, Lack, who came up and in? It's all right. He goes, I'll drill him. I don't care. I'll take a run. I'll drill him. You need to drill him. I was like, wow, this guy goes to bat for you. Lack had that unique perspective post-game, too. You had a great game. We're having beers to celebrate. You had a bad game, we're having beers to get it off our mind. Either way, we're having beers. So, that was, he owned me a little bit too. So, But a good ending. Good ending with that
That's
one.
so great.
God.
So great. We got one final thing. We do this thing called 90-90, Chich. Explain it to Mikey.
All right. It's 9 questions, 90 seconds. We always go over 90 seconds, so don't worry. But I'm going to ask you. It's a this or that thing. It's the dumbest thing you're ever going to do. I'm going to ask John first. He's going to answer, and right when he's done answering, you just pick it up right where you left off. Okay, with your.
I got to finish his sentence?
No. It's your opinion.
He's going to give the answer, and then you give your answer to
Okay.
the same question.
All right.
I got to write this down and organize this so I can explain it better.
Hall of Fame baseball broadcaster Marty Brenneman here. It's time for 9 in 90, the most ridiculous segment in all of sports.
All right, here we go. Ready? You're a South Florida guy. Rank these Miami musicians, Sean first, from worst to best. Flo Rida, Pitbull, Gloria Estefan.
Oh, wow. I'd have to say Flow Riders 3. I do like him, though. Pitbull, I love the energy Pitbull brings, but Gloria Estefan, I think, is like a legend in Miami, and I can't put her 2 or 3 with those guys.
All right. I got Flow Rider 3. I'm throwing Gloria 2 because I'm a Pitbull guy. Bro, Mr. 305, Mr. Worldwide. You know, you gotta give Pitbull his due.
The guy's name is Flo Rida, though. He's giving a 305. It's Florida.
That's true. Yeah.
But that's a good answer. Okay, you got this. All right, Sean, if they played from the start, it's an inside joke, who would have been a better baseball player, Sean? Michael Jordan or Tim Tebow?
I'd probably say Michael Jordan, just because Michael Jordan's Michael Jordan, and he would have figured out how to dominate if he gave him about 5 years of pro ball.
It's Michael Jordan, 1,000%. Because I know Chinch loves Tim Tebow, and I'm not gonna. I'm not taking that bait. I'm not taking that bait.
My wife does, and Mike likes to text her about him sometimes. It's hysterical. All right. Okay, you ready, Sean? Super Bowl quarterback or being in the finals of Wimbledon, what would you rather do?
Oh, bro, Super Bowl quarterback. Because I suck so bad growing up. They're like, hey, Casey, you're kind of a slob, play offensive lineman. I'm like, did I get to touch the ball ever? So I always wanted to be a quarterback, so quarterback, Super Bowl MVP for me.
As much as I'd love to go to Wimbledon, it's a bucket list thing for me. I'm going Super Bowl quarterback as well because here in the United States, we kind of like our football more than our tennis.
Yeah.
All right, this is a tough one. You have to do one of these two things: lick the bottom of someone's boot, or let someone sneeze in your face, Sean.
I'm gonna let. I mean, I don't want it to happen, but my buddy Mike Junko, growing up in high school, used to sneeze in my face all the time, like an asshole. I'm like, can't quit. You gotta quit sneezing in my face, bro. But I'd rather somebody sneeze in my face than lick the bottom of their boot.
Yeah, me too. Because maybe their boot stepped in some shit.
All right, good. You have to give up one of these: Chinese takeout or pizza delivery for the rest of your life.
I'm gonna have to give up I love Chinese, but I have to give up the Chinese takeout because I just gotta have pizza every once in a while.
Bro, you cannot not have pizza.
Fight.
Yeah, Chinese takeout. I can live without. I can live without.
One night when I was working with Lowell, I eat the same pizza order every time if I'm going to have something for myself. You made some sort of concoction. It had pepperoni, mushrooms, onions, and what else? Olives. I ordered it every time. That was you. You made that call. I've had it for the last 5 years, once a week.
There you go.
All right.
You're welcome, Jess.
There you go.
For that body.
Exactly. All right, Case, we're almost there. We're almost done. Paper cut or stubbing your toe? What is worse?
I hate paper cuts.
Come on, Case, please. I hate stubbing my toe. Stubbing your
What are you
toe
tougher than me?
sucks.
Paper cuts, they kill, bro. Paper cuts.
Put some lemon on it, dude. Grow up. Let's go.
Case, Tetris or Super Mario Brothers?
Oh, Super Mario Brothers. I used to dominate Super Mario Brothers.
There's two things you dominate, Case: Super Mario Brothers and yourself. Here we go. Me too.
This
Me
is
too,
true.
Super Mario.
All right, okay, last two. All right. Would you rather be a rich and famous asshole or an unknown, poor, nice person, Sean?
Oh man. You know what? I'd rather be a rich and famous asshole that helps people with my money. How about that?
Oh, that's a good political answer.
I'm gonna agree with Sean because someone's always gonna think you're an asshole anyways. So if someone thinks you're an asshole, I'd rather be rich and famous.
Great. All right, last one. Ready? No stretching. You both stand up right now. Run a 60-yard dash. When I say go, who wins in the race, Sean Casey or Mike Lowell? Today, right now.
Well, it sounds like Mikey's had like 7 different sports he's got going on, and I'm just lifting weights. So I'm going to say Mikey probably beats me at this stage of my life.
I don't know who wins, but it's gonna be slow. I guarantee that. That's one thing. I'm not putting myself ahead of anyone in a race ever in my life. Hey, how many career stolen bases? How many career stolen bases?
Dude, I got 18 bags. How many you got?
I think I took you. Hold on.
Are you serious? No way. 18 over 12 years is legit, I think. Like one and a half a year.
I think I have more.
30! You have
30?
30? Mike Lowell has 30 bags? Hang on a second.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Hey, Siri, how
Going
many
in the cardiac
stolen
arrest.
bases does Sean Casey have?
I had 18, bro. 18. Mikey beat me by 12, which is ridiculous. Can't believe it.
Oh, Siri says 18.
Dude,
You got doubled
but
down?
Listen, one thing I know is Mikey Lowell just showed his 4.0 GPA right there, 9-9. Absolutely dominated that.
Yes. Mikey, thanks
Baseball
for doing this,
reference,
man.
Oh man,
Gotta get to work.
Milo, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate it. This has been such good insight for us and all our fans that are listening. So thanks for joining us, brother. We'll see you soon up at Secaucus at some point.
You got it. Thank you, guys, man. This was fun. Thanks, man. Be good.
Thanks.
All right, Mikey. See you, brother.
You
Love
too.
you, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Case, we did it again, man. What is this, like 25 shows? What are we on?
We're rolling.
I don't
We're
even know the
rolling,
numbers.
man. I think
Talk about a great guy,
we're
right?
I think we're at 25. What a great guy, man. I'm so, you know what, Chinch, what I love about this, being able to do this, the mayor's office with you, is that, man, just so many guys that you've come across, friends that have such great stories to tell and, things to learn from each other, being able to sit down with Mike Lowe. I learned so many things today about him.
Oh, so cool.
And, it was just really cool. And about you, bro. Like, I think I knew that you had the stage 4 cancer, but I didn't realize you were 25. It's just, sometimes in the past, but that was that conversation that you guys had about that, of how you felt and stuff was.
Yeah, no, I didn't know we were
remarkable.
really going to go in there, but it is. And then it's a good, everybody gets their ass kicked every once in a while in life. And it's cool to hear the good stories that come out of it. And with Mike, I'm going to say this, he worked with my wife for a couple of years and I've known him for so long. And man, he's such an easy person to get jealous of because he's a big, handsome, good-looking guy, the smartest
Looks
guy.
like George Clooney.
Yeah, he's funny, he's nice, and you're like, this guy must be an asshole. And then you meet him, he's one of the classiest. Classy is a good word for him, right?
No.
He's like one of the classiest, greatest people I know, and he's such a gentleman, and he's smart as shit because he heard some of that crazy stuff he was saying just now. I didn't know half of that stuff about baseball. I wish I was 17 again. I could go run into a batting cage right now.
Well, it's funny, man. It's funny when I think of Mikey, like going back to playing against him in the Cape Cod League in 1994 when I was in Brewster, and he was playing for Florida International for Chatham. But you just remember those guys. I just remembered him like he was. I think that was kind of our coming out party, the Cape Cod League, because no one knew who I was. I remember this guy Jim Fisher who played at Fresno State. He was like, Richmond, University of Richmond. Is that like a Division III school? I was like, no, bro, don't get caught in the web. I go, we're spinning webs nationwide. We're spinning webs nationwide. I'm like, we're D1. We'll come out to Fresno and spin webs out there too. It's just one of those things. Like, so my coming out party was like, I led the. He was right. We had so many speeches.
You like 55 ribbies.
Oh man, Bill Mosiello coaching our team. We were stealing everyone. I had 40 ribbies. I led the league in ribbies, and I hit like 340 that summer. But that was a coming out party for me with the scouts because you're at the Cape Cod League. all the professional scouts are coming out because it's the first
Not just
time
that, like
using
Peter Gammon's just at every game. That's like big time. When
dude.
you're playing in the Cape Cod League as a kid, you're like, all right, this is it. I'm either gonna, if I make it here, I can be a big leaguer, right? And you guys both dominated the Cape Cod League. Right?
Big time. And it's funny, a Peter Gammon story. When you're in the Cape Cod League, you want to meet Peter Gammon. You're just like, oh, baseball tonight, Peter Gammon. I got to meet him. So I remember at the All-Star break, Todd Helton makes the mid-season All-Star team. He was playing for Orleans, and the game was in Orleans, and I didn't make it. And I'm like, oh, man, I don't get to meet Peter Gammons. I'm like, that was my whole thing was like, I don't get to meet Peter Gammons. I didn't make the All-Star team. You know, it's so funny how you think back when you're a kid. But so but it was like, so like I said, following Mikey from the Cape all the way to the big leagues, but then getting a chance to play with him in 2008. And, you know, he and I, you know, there's so many other things to get into, but before every game, we would play dominoes. Me, Mikey Lowell, Alex Cora, and David Ortiz.
Cool.
It was
a good crew.
Yeah, it was me and AC versus Mikey and Big Papi. And it was so funny because sometimes I think Mikey was on DL a lot that year because of his hip. But sometimes we would be like, hey, Pop, it's 6:55. Like, you got to get out. You're hitting fourth today against the Yankees. You need to stop the domino. We had to stop the domino game and be like, okay, you know, get out there. Because me and Alex were coming off the bench. Mikey was hurt, but Big Papi was still playing. And we'd be playing this dominoes game, and we were like, Pop, you got to get going, bro. Like, the game starts in 7 minutes.
That is unreal. Hey, maybe in this offseason, I'm not kidding, we get like a 4-man Zoom thing and put like a board up. What if you guys played? What if we did a show where you guys play dominoes?
A dominoes game. Oh, dude, we'd love it. Dude, I fell in love with dominoes. Those guys love dominoes. They taught me how to play, and it's fun. So fun, dude. So, do you ever play dominoes?
Yeah, I forgot how to play. I haven't played it in years, but I remember loving playing it.
Yeah,
let's go. Everybody, get your domino sets out.
Yeah, get your dominoes set out. So, man, that was another story about Mikey. Just, you know, looking back, but man, that was a great interview, and you know, just fun, man. Just a lot of fun, brother. A lot of fun.
Yeah, it's so great, man. Oh man, and hey,
I heard a phrase. Go ahead.
No. I was gonna say we're getting wrapped up. Next few weeks are gonna be fun. We're excited. We're doing good here. We're happy. You guys are following us, and we got some more followers too. So we're really psyched about that.
We're rolling. I had something I told my daughter today. You know, think about Mikey Lowell coming on.
Oh yeah.
You being on the show, just the gratitude. And I was telling my daughter this morning. I said, gratitude. I heard something the other day. Gratitude and attitude aren't challenges; they're choices. And I love that. Right?
I love that.
That's our choice every day to find out where we're grateful. And I know being on with you, bro, and being on with Mikey today, I'm grateful. And I'm also grateful for all the people that keep listening to us. We're so thankful. All the numbers are moving. We see you guys tuning in, and thank you for your downloads, your subscriptions, all that. Download us. Make sure you review us, rate us 5 stars, all that stuff. Chichi, I appreciate it, brother. Until next week, I love you, and I'll see you, brother. Take care of yourself. See you guys. Bro. See everybody soon. Thanks.
Yeah.